gentlemen, to RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for all things Rocket League and RLCS Esports. I'm your host, Wave Punk. I've got a findable carpet, a James Spot, and a Quinn Lobdell here with me. Guys, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Quinn?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
I want to know.
Wait, actually,
you did just ask.
I want to know.
I didn't mean to.
I asked this question on the summer series, and you didn't answer it. Why is your name? By the way, hi Carpet. You haven't said anything yet.
Hi.
You doing good?
I'm doing great.
Okay, cool. I have to ask this question. Why is your name Mike, but your gamer tag is Quinn Lobdell?
I thought it was Mike.
Yeah, my name's actually Michael.
It said
so wherever you want to correct that. Yeah, it all kind of started because I was just kind of trolling one of my buddies who, his name's actually Quinn Lobdell, and you know, I never really expected to be a pro Rocket League player or a personality or a caster or have any kind of success or public appearance.
Hey, you're still working on the success part anyway, so.
Oh,
well, I am still a lamb boy.
Yes, no,
a
I'm
better Rocket League player than you ever were.
Then let's 1v1.
We'll do it later, right?
Yeah, story.
Either way, didn't see you at RLCS.
Oh my God.
I just kept my name as Quinn Lobdell, right? Because at one point, everyone's just like, hey, Quinn, you want to play? You want to play? It's like, people are recognizing me by Quinn. I was on stream as Quinn, and if I rebranded myself, it just wasn't going to be the greatest thing ever. So, unfortunately for the real Quinn Lobdell out there, if you Google Quinn Lobdell, it will show me first.
Well, hopefully,
Doesn't he play as Michael Baruzzi, though?
Yeah, he plays under my name, so if you ever want to...
There's so much hoodwinking going on, so much just, I don't even understand. But the Summer Series, glad I got that out of the way. The Summer Series was great. We had an awesome time. We can look at the bracket, how everything panned out last weekend. A lot of fun here. NRG going to get the sweep over, set to destroy. The only series that wasn't a sweep there in that first round was Denial and Take 3. That was an awesome series. It was lots of fun to watch those guys go at it. But NRG, Take 3, the Muffin Men, and G2 Esports rounded out our top 4, and we were in for a wild ride. You can see there at the top, G2 sweeping NRG. Nobody expected that to happen. We all predicted it to go the other way, and NRG, though, dropping to G2. What games, guys? And we can start off by talking here about NRG versus Take 3. So fantastic series. We saw Take 3 take one of the games here, but it was NRG ultimately that was able to knock it out of the park and make it into the finals.
There was a lot of really fun series to watch, but right out of the gate, NRG looking like the NRG of old. Taking it to this new Take 3 roster that had Chrome as a sub instead of Espion. Espion obviously at the desk with us, but NRG, they kept doing what they were doing.
They really just don't stop. They don't slow down, and it's something that they have figured out what to do. And I think picking up Garrett G was one of the best decisions they could have made. He is it's an individual, just such a strong player. His striking is phenomenal. So they don't really have to rely on any one player too much, because we know Jacob does, as me and Wave like to say, hashtag Jacob things.
Oh my gosh.
Fireburner, you can't question it, right? You got Fireboy and the Batmobile in the back, defending like a monster, and then add Garrett G to the mix. What do you got?
There was hardly any close series in this. This was like a lot of blowouts. Even the Splice series.
That's not necessarily fair.
Yeah,
they were not close in games.
They're close in scores.
But the scores, like the games were like one goal differences inside the games. But I mean, if you can't win a game, you can't win a game, right?
Yeah, but the series were very decisive. But like you're saying, even that Muffin Men Splice game, Splice put up a fight every single game, even though they lost 3-0. But that Denial Take 3 game or series was definitely the closest. But NRG and G2, that's who everybody wanted to see in the finals, and that's ended up how it played out. So it was fun to see. Yeah,
it was crazy watching NRG getting the win there, dropping one game on their way to the finals. And we're like, they're still in top form, still clearly the #1 team in North America. And then in the lower bracket, not the lower bracket, the bottom side of the bracket, because there is no lower bracket, single elimination here. We had G2 taking on the Muffin Men, and so we were like, we're not sure how it's going to go. Muffin Men are really, really strong here, and G2 in this series didn't look as strong as they had in the series prior, or as they did in the series we were about to see after this one, but still able to very cleanly get the win here 4-1.
When it comes to endurance, 4-1 is a pretty big spread. It's both a best-of-7 series, which I've always felt, at least for us as casters, is a little bit of an endurance match. So I can only imagine for these players that have the actual pressure built onto them. And it really just came down to like they were playing smart. There were a lot of times, especially towards the end of G2's season, in Season 3, where they got a little slow.
Dash pass.
What a play that was.
There was so many, we had so many, this tournament was exemplified by crazy pass plays like that, and then also some of the most beautiful own goals we have ever seen, which I don't think you'll see here in the highlight
Moses,
but
yeah.
Torment and Moses both had some like ridiculous
Vince
own
had
goals.
a crazy
Was
goal.
Vince the one that was like across the air?
Moses had one where he whiffed the save, and then he turned around and like scored it on his own net. And then Vince had the one where it was a pinch, and he went up to try to save it. Or he went up to try to clear it because it wasn't going in, and he just redirected it right into the corner.
And that one was also, that tied up the game.
Not top 5 play.
Yeah, the not top 5
It tied up the game with denial in Game 5.
Yeah,
it was like, oh dear, it's all over. But then they're able to bounce back, and they get the win by 1 goal and go to face off against NRG, where they drop 4-1. Better luck to them next time. But it was NRG and G2 in our finals. Exactly the match we've all been waiting for, and everybody except for Axel Toss was predicting a 4-0 sweep of NRG, and the exact opposite happened. This blew my mind.
Yeah, the G2, NRG, 2 Titans in North America. G2 obviously had a struggle of a season last time, but this was the passing G2 that we saw early in the Season 3. They really started to shine, especially Rizzo and JNaps together. They were scoring so many sick goals, but Kronovi was a huge key to that. He had 6 assists in this series and really set up JNaps and Rizzo quite a bit.
Something really awesome to watch during the series was just how patient G2 was in contrast with NRG. We saw NRG rushing, making mistakes, and G2 picked up on that and started to play even slower. We saw Rizzo just beating all 3 of the NRG members before he's even crossed the halfway line, for instance. It was just great gameplay and tactical decisions coming from G2, and that's why they were so successful.
In the first 3 games, they're all 1-goal games before G2 just put the pedal to the metal in game number 4. But even in the previous series, Rizzo had 2 overtime goals. G2 was just calm under pressure, and they just and that paid off for them going into this finals. And even though those first 3 games were all close, they still swept 4 games to nothing over NRG.
Yeah.
Nobody would have.
Well, we saw 11-5, just complete outscoring of G2 over NRG. And thoughts from you guys on you talked about there was a lot of defensive mistakes that they were taking advantage of. Was G2 forcing these mistakes, or was NRG, did they just somehow fall apart in between the semifinals and the finals?
I think that G2 definitely, when you just keep playing straight all the way into the finals, that is an advantage. NRG taking a minor break, obviously having already qualified and just waiting for their game. So G2 coming in hot. Another thing especially was just the fact that G2 was really all 3 of those players turning on all at once. And once NRG started to miss a few shots, I don't know if you guys remember, but NRG was just getting
struggling, hitting posts.
So I don't want to say unlucky, but they could not have gotten
There was at least one instance
scoring.
when it bounced off like every single post and then out.
Yeah.
So like you could not have come closer to making the shot and still missing, you know?
And not only that too, but the Rizzo 50-50s with Fireburner. Well, like first off, Fireburner almost never loses 50-50s, but twice Rizzo just pinched it with fire, and it just went
from his own
all
half.
the way into the net.
That was so precise.
It almost felt like when I was casting that game, it just felt like G2 was just playing counterplay. They know exactly what NRG is going to do. Obviously, they're the team to beat right now. They're the North American champions, and they know, hey, this is probably our most difficult series. If we can beat these guys, we know we're a roster to stay, especially now with all the mishappenings that's going on, and who knows who's going to be who by Season 4.
Yep.
But it felt like they like, you know what? We know what NRG plays. Let's just counterplay them. Let's get in between them. Let's just put somebody always in the way of the passing plays. Let's not let Jacob do Jacob things. Let's contest Fireburner in a way that it's hard for him to do 50-50s. They were just stifling NRG, which you generally don't see, because G2 is a team that usually in their own right can just do their thing and win. But it almost like, you know what, let's just stop them, and then the win will come. And that's how it felt.
Yeah, the question was, can G2 come back? Is this the season where G2 can show up in the form we've been wanting to see them? It looks good so far in the first summer series. We'll get to see them some more as this off season goes on and as we get into Season 4. But that'll wrap it up here for our summer series wrap up. Congratulations to G2 for winning. And coming up next, we're going to go over all the roster changes that have been happening in the off season. Should be good. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. back to RLCS Overtime, ladies and gentlemen. We just got done talking about the Brisk Summer Series that happened just this past weekend, and now we're going to talk about some other Pro Rocket League stuff. Roster Watch. This is the off-season of RLCS. This is when roster mania happens. Everything gets shuffled up, and we want to keep you guys up to date on the latest maneuvers and trades that are happening, or maybe lack thereof, depending on these teams. So, guys, any big surprises so far from you guys you've seen so far?
I mean, it's still very early. Very, very early. We just had our first Brisk Summer or 7-Eleven Summer Series event. There's 2 more to go, and there's still a DreamHack Atlanta. So we have a lot of big tournaments for teams to still experiment with rosters. But we have seen some movement already at this point.
Right. I'd say Flipside.
Sure.
It's probably the first one. I mean, we're not 100% sure, but we did see Mystic in DreamHack over in Sweden, replacing Greasy potentially. We don't know if that's concrete. But they did win. They won the tournament with Mystic, so I mean, that's going to be good news for Mystic, at least if he's looking to join Flipside. I wouldn't be surprised considering this new Mockit roster is also...
Yep, they're looking pretty strong there as well. Pashy, always a person that built a good team around him. We'll get into that roster here in a little bit. Let's start in Europe because we're already talking about that. Let's start with Envious, and most people are like, whoa, what's Envious? Never heard of this team. This is Northern Gaming. Your current reigning world champions have now switched orgs, got bought out by Envious here. So one of the biggest orgs in all of esports, longest standing orgs in esports, the boys in blue Envious here picking up Northern Gaming.
And really the way NG, Northern Gaming, handled that acquisition was just pure class. If you saw their AMA on Reddit, you saw what they had to say. Northern Gaming, the way they handled that was awesome. But Envious, that is huge for Rocket League in general, for an org of their caliber to come into the scene.
What I find massive is they didn't even have Maestro for the LAN.
Yeah.
They won with the sub.
Yep.
Granted, Turbo Pulse is a great player, but they didn't even have their original roster.
Yep.
And we saw how strong they were. We know Maestro and Remco are like the European duo outside of Marky and Cooks here. So, I mean, that's actually exciting for me since we didn't even really get to see them perform to what I think would have been the most pressure and potentially their prime. That it's almost like getting to see a roster swap a little bit. Like we get a little fun surprise.
Well, then that brings me to the question of Maestro versus Turbo. Everyone was like, we kind of forgotten about Turbo because he was a sub for Northern Gaming, and then he shows up and shows he's clearly a top-level player still, and they decide to stick with Maestro on the starting roster, which means that Turbo decides he's going to go elsewhere. He doesn't want to be a sub. He wants to play. Thoughts about this, guys? Should they have stuck with Turbo? I mean, clearly they had the winning composition there. What about sticking with Maestro here?
They certainly had an incredible performance winning the World Championship, but Maestro I still think is the better player. Maestro has played at LAN, and he is probably, Gibbs would say that he's the best LAN boy out there, but you know, it's with Turbo, he showed up on that day, and we've seen people show up on the day before, like with iBuyPower Cosmic.
Right.
Like they showed up on the biggest stage and ended up winning the World Championship when everybody thought they were not the best team. So I still think that Maestro is the better player, but they really couldn't go wrong. Whether they went with Turbo or went with Maestro, they're still going to be a world-class team.
We've had 2 teams now in the World Championship win with a sub plane that didn't play throughout the majority of the regular season. So that's really a crazy thing because we've only had 3 seasons, but it's happened 2 times out of those 3 seasons so far. Moving on to Flipside, the other team that we talk about a lot when we talk about world champions here. The big thing with them, that question mark at the bottom, as you hinted earlier, Quinn, Greasy didn't make it out to DreamHack. They played with Mystic, and they win there after having a lackluster performance on the World Championship stage. Who do you guys think, just speculate with me here, Mystic, Greasy, Meister, maybe someone else, who's going to be filling out this roster carpet?
This is one of those situations where Cooksier and Marky really can do no wrong. They're both so good together that they just need to find somebody that fits that groove, and we've seen them, you know, do it with more than one player. And a lot of it, we don't get to see it on this end, but a lot of it really does come to personalities as well.
Yeah.
These players can get on each other's nerves when you play together for months and months and months, when there's tens of thousands of dollars on the line and someone's pissing you off. Like, it's nothing you want to deal with.
Chemistry is important. We see if you follow the Genesis tweets.
Oh, wow.
Chemistry is, I'm sorry, Quinn. Quinn's the team manager for Genesis, so you got to experience how important is team chemistry?
Well, I mean, it's probably the most important thing I'd say even more important than skill, because when chemistry is just not there, no matter how good you are and you start getting on each other's nerves, you start fighting with each other, that will quickly cut away any skill gap that there is. We saw Genesis with definitely some personality issues last season, and there's not really that much you can do rather than to just make the best of certain situation. But I just saw how easily they would become discouraged, they would lose motivation, stop practicing, and it just killed the team. Like,
but do you think
out.
Flipside, though, because we're talking about Flipside, and I don't know why everybody is winning things with subs. First of all, that is, I don't get it. But like, do you think the chemistry is playing a role for them? Like, when Cooks was interviewed at DreamHack, he said they were looking for something fresh. I believe I believe that's what he said, or something along those lines.
They really enjoyed having Mystic on comms. He was very easy to keep happy and chipper. They were singing Italian. They were singing American pop songs in Italian just for fun. Like, as far as like team dynamic on comms go, it doesn't get better than that.
So like maybe Mystic. You know, he might,
he's
like, he's really a very good player,
nice
but if he's a better chemistry fit and maybe not a better player, do you still go with him? Or do you go with a better player?
If the skill gap between the two players is not make or break the entire team, right? Mystic is still an amazing player. Season 2, he was in the finals, right? It's not like this is some pushover who's just a fun guy to have in comms, right? This is Mystic, one of the best players in Rocket League. There's no doubt in my mind that you'd go with Mystic, somebody who's easy to work with. There's a chance for longevity in the team. It just makes complete sense.
Something to mention for sure. So I interviewed Mystic for his kind of on the day when we were showing videos of him.
Sure.
And getting to know him as a person, he takes it game at a time, which I think was really cool. Something that he mentioned in his interview was like, well, you know, we're just going to take it one series at a time, and we're not going to worry about just the victory. Which I think is also very similar to how we, you know, when you listen to Marky interviews, he's the same thing. He's like, you know, like, we're just here to do our best. We're here to perform at our peak. Doesn't matter what our results are. We're just here to perform at the best of our capabilities. And I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand. That could be a big thing. And Greasy, as we know, really likes to win. He's a very competitive person, and that could be I mean, I don't know, but that could be something that may have rubbed in the roster. Who knows?
Yeah, I really liked the flip side we saw at DreamHack. They looked very strong. Their opponents on the World Championship, or not the World Championship, but the DreamHack Championship there was Gale Force Esports. Now, this is a roster we're talking about brand new. We have only seen this team play once. They made it all the way to the finals there at DreamHack. You can see 3 different teams here. This is where Turbo has ended up right now. I think he's officially signed on Gale Force now. KDOT, Violent Panda, Turbo Pulsar, all 3 of these players are grand finalists. They've all been in the World Championship game at the RLCS. Thoughts about this roster, guys?
Well, first off, KDOT, he was the EU MVP. That guy is absolutely nuts. And then he actually took down Violent Panda and Gale Force to go to LAN. And that series was stellar. And Violent Panda played out of his mind. But then they're also picking up Turbo, who I honestly thought he was arguably the MVP. Even though Devo had flashier plays, I thought Turbo Pulsar played incredibly well. So this roster is actually looking quite good.
Yeah, Turbo is one of the fastest players I have ever seen in Rocket League. People kind of just discredit him a little bit as the sub who lived up to, you know, help them win LAN, lived through the storyline, whatever. He's incredible. He's so fast. I'd say he's way faster than Maestro, and I think that actually worked out to Northern Gaming's advantage. Seeing him with KDOP and seeing him with Violent Panda, that's going to be a super scary team. So I think Gale Force is looking to be one of the stronger teams coming into next season, definitely.
Well, we talked about this at DreamHack, that there's never, every time a team wins RLCS, they kind of fall off a little bit. The first 2 seasons, both the teams that won kind of fell apart afterwards. And Turbo had the best opportunity yet to win 2 big tournaments back-to-back. He didn't pull it out there in the end. It was Flipside that pulls off the win. But making it all the way to the finals there, I think the big question in everyone's mind was, is it going to be like an over-0 situation where he wins LAN, it's like, oh, he's so great, he's this big popular guy, and then just doesn't seem to pan out in the next season. And instead, Turbo Pulsar is seeming just to continue on with the momentum that he already had.
It almost feels like that roster is like the low-key MVPs all teamed up together.
Oh,
right?
sure.
Like, Violent Panda, we've always known was one of the best players, but he was on team with Patchy for so long, and I think Patchy, his name has a little bit more weight to it, even if there are a lot of games where Violent Panda outshined him. And KDOP, as we know, he got MVP, but he's still, for some reason, it's just one of those things like he doesn't do flashy plays, so he doesn't come up as much in conversation with a lot of things. And Turbo Pulsar, as we know, like he wasn't even on a roster last season.
Yeah.
The dude was just chilling as a sub, and he won championships. So it almost seems like all the low-key MVPs are like, you know what, we're sick of this. Like,
the one thing though that Turbo needs to work on, and I'm telling you, Turbo, is stop wearing shorts at all these tournaments. We don't want to see your legs at all. Wear pants. Please.
Oh man.
Have you
Esports needs some sort of like
some nice
pants
fatherly advice.
or at least get like Gale Force shorts, like athletic shorts with logo.
Please, org, start supplying your players with like a full uniform, because like I'm tired of them walking out with a jersey and then like jeans and then like Converse or something.
He was
like
like,
that.
Do the mango way. Get the shorts on.
But now, when we talk about roster watch, like the king of roster watch, I feel like, is Pashy. He is always the person who comes in, shakes up everything. Everyone builds their rosters around what he does, because he comes in and like pulls the best player from this team and a different player from that, and everyone's left with gaps, and they changes everything up here. This is Mockit's new roster. The Pashy coming over from Gale Force, kept Fairy Peak, and then goes and finds Freaky from Penta, who we saw play in the last RLCS as well. So 3 dynamite players here forming up a new roster. We've never seen these 3 guys play together, but if it's Pashy, he's going to make a world-class team.
They were almost going to be teammates before, too. Pashy, Freaky, both Germans. They're competing together in a World Cup event that's coming up. So they're familiar with each other. And Pashy, he is probably the greatest scout in Rocket League. Like, he'll go out and take players who are not necessarily the biggest names, but always have a team that's competing to be at the top in Europe. So, like, I honestly think that this is probably one of the weaker rosters that we've seen him put together, but still, like, Pashy knows better than me. Like,
sure.
He knows what he's doing. He knows how to judge a player's skills. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this roster do well, but Europe is getting stacked again.
I feel like when we talk about, Pashy putting together rosters and being like, I didn't really think that one was going to do well. Season 2 comes to mind with Violent Panda and Devo, and that sounds blasphemous to say now. To say like, oh, Devo wasn't a good player. It was like nobody knew who he was before that, And then Pashy finds these 2 players, puts together this world-class team. They make it all the way to the finals, end up falling to Flipside. But Pashy, like you said, he can find the diamonds in the rough and make a good team out of it. So I'm excited to see how these guys are going to fare.
It's definitely something to say. To understand that no matter who you're with, you can try and perform. There's a couple of European players that come to mind that can kind of just make it to LAN with whoever, because they're that good and they know how to fill in the gaps. And I think Pashy90, since he takes that kind of captain role, he also, at the same time, doesn't go for the star plays. He does set his teammates up, and he tries to just be a grounded player that takes control and makes opportunities for his teammates. So, I guess, not to play devil's advocate, but like, while the roster might not seem as strong on paper, I think like he's the kind of player that will make those players strong, whether they know it or not.
Sure, and we'll see how that one pans out. Europe's been crazy already. I cannot wait to see how those rosters settle before we get into Season 4. But moving over to North America, things a bit more stable here. We can talk about the teams that we know we're going to be seeing next season. NRG, and we start off with them. Nothing's changed with these guys so far. We saw them playing in the Brisk series. They made it all the way to the finals and then fell in a surprising fashion to G2. But the roster's staying the same for now. Jacob, Fireburner, and Garrett G. These guys, a team that we've come to know and love in the past few seasons.
Yeah, the back-to-back NA champions. They've secured their spot in Season 4 with their performance from Season 3, and they got the demon off of their back this season. They beat a European team first round and made a heck of a run, getting 3rd place at the World Championship.
You really can't beat that. And if I ever watch Fireburner and Jacob split up, I don't know what I'll do. Like, you can't. I mean, they're a lovable duo at this point. They've got such a history just as a pair. They've done so much together. And after watching them develop for season and season and season, like they have legitimately developed together.
Yeah.
Their play styles legitimately are half of a whole play style. They each make a thing that exists. And if you break that apart, I don't know what'll happen.
They're like a best friend necklace.
Exactly. We have a few of those here in Rocket League with them, and then Marky and Cookser, and then Remco and Maestro. I'm sure there's
teams that like
you
can never imagine them playing on other teams.
Yeah.
Like if one of them stops playing, you just assume the other one does as well.
We get some great rivalries. Can you imagine Fireburner versus Jacob if they ended up on different teams?
Don't do this to me.
Rocket League Civil War, here we come. I mentioned Matt and Sizz. Let's talk about Rogue. Here's another team that is not making any changes right now. They didn't have necessarily the performance they were hoping for at the World Championships, but coming up hot, making North America proud here, and then taking top 4 in DreamHack as well. Rogue looking okay right now.
Yeah, Matt, Turtle, and Sizz. We've seen Matt and Sizz play together for so long now, all the way from before Season 1. I remember these guys as a duo just playing doubles on the ranked ladder time and time again. It's a dynamic duo. They've been playing for so long. A-Money's are former teammates, right? How they're known best. I think they'd have to get out of their mind to change anything with the success they had at the last LAN. They may have had higher hopes for themselves, but you know what? They objectively performed very well, and we can see the potential in them to grow as a team. I mean,
and they have the most swagger out of it.
Yeah, I think, and this is the point I want to make is like even if you're not winning, you have made so many fans. Like as far as a successful esports team right now, they have got it going right now. I know that they went and they played in DreamHack. They had some other event where they got flown out by Rogue to play on some battleship and stuff like just like it's like they are successful esports professionals right now. Exactly,
They're
building their brands.
Brand builders.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's so big for them. I mean, so now they're in season 4 already. So that's one big reason not to break up. You need to keep 2/3 of your roster to continue with that. So they definitely want to stick together. But it's so frustrating sometimes to watch teams like they make a roster, they play for a few months, doesn't work. They're like, well, that wasn't worth it. So many teams that right now are dominating are teams that have been working on it for a year and a half, 2 years plus. There's a reason NRG is so good. There's a reason Flipside's so good because they don't break up. Even when they have their downs, even when they can't perform, they stick together and it's paying off. So I want to see, I love seeing rosters do this more often, especially Rogue, since you can tell, we were talking about chemistry earlier, they clearly have good chemistry. They are loving it. And I think that if they have the skill and they have the dynamic, I think, to what is the potential for a really, really top-notch team.
Yeah, hopefully they're able to find the wins here in Season 4 because they definitely have everything else already going for them. Moving on quickly here through a few other rosters. G2, a team that we've always been like, they're a huge fan favorites, but have not been able to find success on the stage. They finally found some great success in the Summer Series. Yes,
J2 and the Crizzos.
J2 and the Crizzos. My favorite new ska band.
Yeah, these guys. Just playing along what Carpet said, these guys have had rough performances, but still have stuck together. So kudos to them. Really, teams in North America are staying together. I wonder if that is going to help them in the next World Championship, but still we have to see J2 and the Crizzos make the World Championship where they've fallen short a couple times.
For performing one time in some single elimination bracket. Wow, tongue twisters here. What'd you call it yesterday?
Tongue.
You call it you're tongue-filled or something like that? Something
I don't remember.
A tongue fill?
This could get bad.
It was a tongue-full.
That was a tongue-full. It was a tongue-full, yes. Oh my gosh. Anyways, it's good to see them win that one tournament, but to be able to have the entirety of a season to stick together and actually make it all the way to the playoffs. Well, it remains to be seen whether they can do that. So we'll continue to keep an eye on them. But last, let's talk about the Muffin Men, a team we also saw perform pretty well yesterday. If you're not familiar with these guys, we expected these guys. This is kind of former Team Iris plus Dapper minus Lachinio, and they're calling themselves the Muffin Men now. And they're quite a formidable roster here in North America. Yeah,
and Dapper, he is a pro. Like, he came in only one day on the first day of the RLCS, and he put up some insane numbers. They had that 5-game series with Flipside where they lost in the final seconds. So Dapper, he's a monster. The Muffin Men, they're serious contenders.
Yeah, I really think them picking up Dapper is a huge addition to the roster. Dapper, you say he's a real pro. As from every aspect of that word, he's a professional. He comes, he plays as hard as he can. He's always there to practice. He's always trying to improve, not just for himself, but for his team. And that just, any roster is looking for a third player like that, a third player that's always down to just grind and become better and better and better. And I think with Squishy and Torment not being so successful last season, they're going to be looking for a third who's down to just work as hard as they possibly can to make sure they don't have another disaster.
They're like a Selfless again, right?
Yeah.
Selfless missed out, then they made it. And now Dapper's trying to do the same with Muffin Men.
And if you talk about the other two, so Torment, if you guys don't remember, he used to play with Darkfire all the time. They were kind of a duo for quite some time, but I think Darkfire took a step down from competitive, and Torment stuck around. And Squishy Muffins, I draw a little bit of parallels sometimes, like someone like Jazer in the European region, because they're both mechanically strong, and they might not shine as much in competitive threes, but they can if they put the time into it. They do a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of good tutorials. They have immense amounts of mechanical skill. We've talked about a lot of people in North America. Quinn, you look like you want to say something.
I just got to say, man, shout outs to my boy Jazer. You got to give him the respect he deserves. That guy is a beast. I don't know if you saw that Gold Rush land, man. But Jazer put in some work. So don't sleep on these guys.
A lot of fantastic players in North America, a lot of fantastic players in Europe, all over the world. We'll keep an eye on the rosters as we get closer to Season 4. We'll definitely keep you up to date if anything changes. But that'll do it for today. Next up, we're going to have the 50-50, everybody's favorite segment. Carpet's going to have some people going head-to-head, James, Bot, and Quinn. We'll see who wins. Can't wait. It'll be right here after the break.
Skin for so long. Oh, I am in your head So tell me, is it wrong? Oh, you fell under my spell. So well, so well. Oh, you fell under my spell. So well, so well. You fell under my spell. My spell, my spell. You fell under my spell. My spell, my spell. My spell, my spell, my spell, my spell. You fell under my spell. My spell, my spell, my spell, my spell, my spell. You fell under my spell. You fell under my
Welcome to the 50-50, where I get to take James Bot and Quinn Lobdell and ask them questions that they definitely disagree on and will probably hate each other by the end of it. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit scared because I'm here with Sir Talks a lot and Sir Talks a bit more. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get anything in edgewise, but here's how it's gonna work. I'm gonna ask them 5 questions. Don't worry, we prepared it a little bit. We made sure they disagree with each other. And then they're gonna give their response and they're gonna argue their points. And I'm going to determine who I think actually had the best argument and who I think is right.
Carpet, you are the most biased judge.
I am
in the history of judging.
Not. Just because you lose doesn't make me biased.
Okay. All right.
But it does. You want yourself to win. But here's how it's going to work. I already told you how it's going to work. Who cares? We're just going to get on with it. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Will NRG repeatedly, one more time, another repeat, be North American champions?
Yes.
Quinn. Whoa.
Yes.
All right. You got to let me tell you.
It's like a buzzer.
There's
Yes.
no buzzer. Do you see a buzzer? All right. Do your point.
Yeah, of course. They did it 3 times. Why not 4? Are you crazy? They're the best onliners in the game.
Okay.
Before the show, Quinn was going to say, I'm going to say no. Because I said yes as well.
This is all planned?
No, just
is this pre-recorded?
Oh, my goodness. Quinn, yes. But because you didn't provide any reasons, I'll tell you why. Besides the fact that they're back-to-back-to-back champions.
They're the best onliners in the game.
Firebird.
They are the best.
All right. Calm down. All right. Now I see why I didn't want to bring you on earlier. James, give your decision as to why you, for some reason, now agree with Quinn.
Okay, well, like I said before, yes, they are going to be the 4-time defending North American champion because they have Fireburner, who is the lead scorer time and time again, got the Golden Striker Award. They have Jacob, who stepped up insanely huge this season, getting the Clutch Playmaker Award. And now they added Garrett G, who is a certified land boy and the difference maker for them at this World Championship. There is no other North American team that can compete with them. They're going to take this 4th championship.
Quinn, what do you want?
I think that's what best onliners means.
All right. We've got the passionate response and the calculated response. You're supposed to disagree. Why did I bring you on the show together?
Next question.
Next question. I'm done with the both. Don't tell me how to do my job.
Hey, sorry.
What 3-man squad is the best in Europe? Shh. You go first. James Bot.
The defending world champions used to be Northern Gaming. Now they're known as Envious. These guys are the team to beat in Europe. They are the 3-man squad that you have to be afraid of. And they even had Turbo Pulsa instead of Maestro, and Maestro is Gibbs' favorite land boy. That guy is absolutely sick. So you pair him up with the World Championship MVP Devo and Remco, the team captain of the squad. That team is the unbeatable team in Europe.
All right, then. Quinn, you clearly look like you have a lot to say.
I don't envy them one bit. You know why? They needed Turbo to win. They needed him. Without Turbo Pulsar, they're nothing. And you know what? They're sticking with Maestro. Turbo Pulsar's left. They're going to be nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. Nothing at all. My number one team in Europe right now.
So passionate.
Don't make me laugh. My number one team in Europe right now is definitely Flipside with your boy Mystic. I mean, they won DreamHack. That's a newer tournament.
Envy wasn't even there. Envy wasn't even there.
Exactly.
If they were there, they would have crushed them.
All right. Before your blood
They
pressure
got
goes
rid
through
of
the
their best player, Turbo.
All right. Let's just get to the next one before Quinn loses his head, all right? Who is undoubtedly the best LAN player? Obviously, this is an opinion from these guys, so don't get triggered and chat too much. I'm hesitating to do this, but Quinn, you start us off.
All right. Best LAN player can only be the OG LAN boy. But number 2, besides myself, I'm going to have to go with your boy Cuxer. Cuxer97, time and time again, has proven that he is the number 1 player, just carrying Flipside by himself. He will 1v3 easy peasy. He's got a cute little mustache, and I like his piercing above his lip. That's my answer.
So that's what you're going with? Why? They lost to the leftovers at the World Championship. No, the player.
A bad team?
I'm not saying they're a bad team, but the leftovers weren't the world champions. You know who were? Envy. You know who was on that team? Remco. Remco finished 3rd in the first World Championship,
Envy.
3rd in the second World Championship, and first this time.
Turbo Pulsa. There's no Turbo Pulsa.
Remco was only behind Maestro in terms of stats in season 1 and 2 live finals, and this season in the World Championship, he led his team in scoring.
You wanna explain?
Remco, even though he wasn't the World Championship MVP, is the leader of the team. He's a Lamboy. Cool, calm, collected, leading his team to victory. This guy is the best LAN player.
He might be the LAN boy, but he is not the best LAN boy. You're going to tell me why he's going to get rid of
He is.
the player he won LAN with him? He's the best LAN boy? It doesn't make sense, Remco. It doesn't
If
make
you want,
sense.
doesn't make sense, listen to yourself. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the comeback from the 90s. You don't make sense. Your mom doesn't make sense. I am so happy I brought Quinn on this. I could not be happier right now. No one has ever up-hammed James. You're being out-hammed.
Dude, he's hamming me.
You're being out-hammed right now.
There's too much ham.
All right. 4th question. We've only got 2 left, and then I'll determine who the winner is. This is a little more difficult.
We know who
they
the
had to
winner
think
is.
about
Determine
this.
what?
Will you let me?
Okay.
All right.
On to the next question already.
Just choosing one player from each region, 1 North American player, 1 European, and 1 OCE player. Create your best roster, and you've now lost your right to answer first. James Pott.
Okay, I'm trying to think of the best team all around working together. It is Garrett G from NA. He will play in any role because he's just that good. You can put him anywhere, he'll succeed. Couple him with the EU MVP, K-Dop, and that starts to be an unbeatable team. You throw in the OCE LAN boy Jake, who scored the first goal ever for OCE in the RLCS and led them to that win versus Denial. You've got the best worldwide team featuring OCE, NA, and EU.
I think Quinn thinks you're an idiot the way he's looking at that.
Anybody want to explain why he says Remco or whoever was his number 1 LAN boy?
It's a team.
Put him on
You're
the
talking about a
put him on the
team.
team. He doesn't put his own number
All
1
right,
LAN
Quinn,
boy on
what's
the
your
team.
team?
I've
What's
got Cuxer97 from EU. I've got Jake from OCE, and the US. I gotta go with my boy J-Naps.
J-Naps?
That is a good one.
You know what?
Easy.
Except he didn't even make the World Championship.
Yeah. So what? He was too good. He was too good. He went home.
On the subject, let's get to the next one real quick. On the subject, will G2 make LAN this season? Quinn. I can't tell if this is... Quinn.
They never made
What's he
it.
doing? Is he okay?
I don't
James.
know.
All right, are they going to make it?
Not a chance.
You really don't think so?
No.
Why not?
Okay,
I want to hear why.
They stand a chance. I mean, can anybody guarantee it? Anybody actually think so? I mean, you're out of your mind. We saw what happened to them last time. Come on. Repeat performance. History repeats itself.
Were you not watching the Brisk Summer Series, or the 7-Eleven Summer Series, rather, presented by Brisk? They just took down NRG. They swept them 4-0. This is the G2 that we saw at the beginning of last season. G2, they're the real deal. They're going to make it to the World Championship.
All I have to say.
Final thoughts.
All I have to say is James don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what you're talking about.
That's all he has to say.
That's all I gotta say.
James, do you have any final retort?
No, I've got nothing.
You got nothing.
I just want to get away from this man as soon as possible.
Okay, so this is when I usually pick a winner. But
Can't
I'm not
handle the
going
heat, get out of the kitchen.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick a winner here based on probably passion and a little bit of fear for my life. I might have to give this one to Quinn. I've never seen anyone so excited to do anything in my entire
You
life.
might have to, or you are giving
I'm giving it to
This
Quinn.
is
I'm giving it to Quinn.
He did it.
Look at his crazy eyes.
He is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're feeding into his
I'm not
crazy.
feeding into it.
Yes, you are. You are rewarding
Sucks to suck,
him.
guys.
I don't know, man.
Sucks to suck.
I think you did too much research. I wanted to feel the answers from the heart, and you gave me some calculated response.
I gave you answers from the brain.
No, he gave me
You
answers.
didn't include your own #1 land boy.
It doesn't
Where's
matter
the
if you're trying to fill it with the best team.
Or I'm gonna make the
it's
best
the
team and have the
chemistry,
worst land
the
boys
chemistry,
ever.
the synergy.
Then what synergy?
All right. I'm done with the
From
both
3
of you.
different countries and continents.
This is why I was scared to bring these two on. If you agree with me, hashtag Team Quinn. If you disagree with me, hashtag Team Bond. Put it in chat, tweet us out, do whatever you have to do. I'm going to get away from these two as quickly as I can. When we come back, we will be covering some community tournaments and show you guys some future events coming up. So don't go anywhere. This was a 50-50. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, baloney.
Shut up.
Took me down, and you're feeling alone. So long, darling. Right here and now, we can try this again. If you're here, darling. I finally see what I need to be free. Far from what I was meant to be. No holding back, I've made up my mind. Seeing what's next, I'm not sure at all. I'm holding the key firmly in my hands. I'm looking for, I know where I stand. And this is it, I have nothing to lose. Now is the right time, I'm making my move. I'm on a high now. You can't bring me down. I'm on a high now. You can't bring me down. No,
Welcome back to RLCS Overtime, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great show, and we want to talk about one more thing here before we let you guys go. Rocket League started as a community. It started as a bunch of people that loved this game, and we built this esports scene from the ground, and then Silence was like, hey, these people love it. Let's make a big old tournament around it, and here RLCS was born. But these communities still live and thrive online mostly, and so we're going to talk about some of these communities and where, you know, if you want to get plugged into the Rocket League community just as a viewer or as a volunteer, a lot of these organizations run entirely on volunteers. So we're going to talk about some of them. The first one we want to talk about, Pro Rivalry League, probably one of the biggest, most robust organizations that is going on right now, and they run tournaments all week long for all sorts of different things here, mostly 3v3 and 2v2 as you can see, but Mondays, Saturdays, and Sundays you can see the prize pools and the times there in front of you. This is one of the, they do not just Rocket League, they do a lot of different games too.
Yeah, but yeah, and Rocket League is where we mostly care about.
Yeah, for sure.
To be honest, but yeah, they run tournaments where if you're looking to compete as a player, pros play in these tournaments as well, especially PRL. PRL is probably one of the most prestigious Rocket League community groups that runs tournaments. But also, that's where a lot of casters get started, admins get started. Like if you're looking to start breaking into the scene in Rocket League for any reason whatsoever, you start out going to one of these community groups and just getting involved. And so PRL, they run those weekly tournaments. So if you're just looking to compete, check it out. If you're looking to get involved in any way, check it out.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Shice, I mean, he's a great guy. He's the guy over in charge of PRL. He's still,
Is he the CEO of PRL?
Is he the CEO? I think so. No, owner?
I don't
Co-owner,
know.
founder? He is. He's in charge, at least. There's two guys at the top.
president.
He's one of the two at the top.
Okay,
And,
so he's the vice president or the president?
I think take president.
I think he's the
president.
totalitarian dictator, right?
Totalitarian dictator, that worked too. But yeah, he does still owe me a 144 hertz monitor. So if you're out there, Scheist.
Called out. Called out
Here,
on RLCS
overtime.
overtime. He just called out the head mage of PRL.
The head mage.
Yeah, let's keep on.
That's a good one. I want that title.
Yeah, that's why I want the Master Chief.
But just to continue what James is saying, I mean, these are all these are all volunteers usually, almost solely volunteers. I mean, I know that's how I met James. But we met. He was on part of the RLC, and I was part of PPL, which was another tournament we were running, the Pulsar Premier League. And like we were both kind of like just having fun and loving the game. That's how we got to meet a lot of the pros, trying to put up money for these prize pools and organizing these things. And there's something really cool about just like everybody doing it for free and for fun.
Everyone did it for fun because they just loved the game.
Yeah.
And it made for an awesome environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could move on to talk about Nexus is the next league we want to look at here. They're running a tournament in July on the first, I believe, $1,000 summer invitational for 16 teams. That one you can't sign up for, but for their other stuff, you can see there 1v1s, 2v2s, and 3v3s. No matter what your format is that you enjoy, especially if you live in North America, here in Nexus, you can sign up for those and compete. Little prize pools all around. And yeah, this is where I got started. Not in Nexus particularly. I got started in a 2v2 tournament called Ghost Boosters. That was the first tournament I ever casted.
These tournaments, though, you see 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3, varying prize pools. So a lot of times, some of these tournaments will overlap sometimes, but really, if you're trying to become a pro in Rocket League, you play in these tournaments. This is really where you start. You go to Shift Pro League, you go to Nexus, you go to PRL, and you play in those online tournaments.
Yeah, I can explicitly remember being a part of Carpet's PPL, right, the Pulsar Premier League, and I remember being on stream and playing those tournaments, and that's where you really start to kind of feel a little bit of self-importance as a player. It's like, hey, look, I'm actually competing, I'm actually being relatively successful. Maybe I can have a shot at joining the RLCS, and you know, whether you retire from from playing and go into casting or adminning, like you said, I mean, moving through these community organizations is definitely one of the best ways to get involved with it.
One of the fun things about these communities is that it is a complete blend between the amateurs and the pros. And so, like, you know, you look at Dapper and you look at the boys on Selfless, who came in after the end of season 1 of RLCS, just playing in community tournaments as momentum, and completely surprised everybody. We'd never heard of these guys, and then they started beating all these pro teams and winning all these community tournaments, and then that's how they got the light to get picked up by Selfless, and now we've seen them competing in the RLCS stage. These tournaments are how you get onto this stage, whether as a caster or as a tournament organizer or as a pro player. So it's fantastic to see that this is how this is structured here.
And tournament mentality is so much different than ladder mentality. If you're just climbing a grind rank, you're going to play significantly different than if you're in a tournament setting. There's a certain style you have to apply, and generally when you're on ladder, you'll play safer, you'll play a little bit slower because you're just like, oh, I just don't want to lose any rank points, right?
Sure.
But it's way different where like, next game we lose, we're done. Like we're out of the tournament,
And
we're
it's not
in the
just
lowers.
one game, right?
Yeah.
It's generally a series of games. And you see it even in the RLCS. Pretty much any team can take a game off of another team, but winning a series is something completely different.
And we can move on to talk about the Shift Pro League, another one of the communities here that runs tournaments on a weekly basis you can compete in. They also have, I believe, an invitational of some sort. It's a 24-team tournament here called #FeelsOldMan. I love that. That is also on July 1st. So then they also run Battle Car Pacifica. What a fantastic name.
That one's
These guys have my favorite names.
Yeah.
The West Coast server friendly, which for me is important.
Yes.
And Quinn, like being in the Bay Area, East Coast servers are not necessarily the greatest for us. The whole kind of warping around a little bit. So it's nice getting to have West Coast tournament options.
Right.
Yep.
All these community tournaments definitely offering something different, whether it's the time or, you know, like that Feels Old Man tournament, something for us to compete in, right?
Sure.
There's variety. There's
definitely
variety. And
so
options if you're trying to get involved.
Well, I think one of my favorite options, the next one I want to talk about here, minor league doubles. I think a lot of people would look at these tournaments and be like, I know I'm not good enough to compete in any of these. Well, we have a league for you here. This one, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to compete if you're champion or higher here. I'm pretty
I love
certain
the
about
ML
that.
double.
Which means that you have to, they use a whole draft system where, like, based on your average rank, you are given kind of a worth, and then teams captains will draft you onto a team. And the cool thing about this league is the teams don't change. So they have like the Bears and like the Pirates and the Rhinos, the Ducks, yeah. And it's like every season it's the same teams, and they all have their own Twitter accounts, and they like banter back and forth. And who plays on those teams? Cloud Fuel plays on one of these teams. I know DMR Rawlings, guy who does our stats, also plays on one of these teams. They love to the teams do not change. Like the players change, but the team names don't change. So if you're a Bears fan, you could always cheer for the Bears. You know, it's a super cool thing.
It's a really cool dynamic that a lot of orgs don't have, or I guess tournament organizations don't have. Particularly because there's always rosters, like just separating, and players want to be their own identity. Everyone wants to come up with their own cool name or their own cool logo. Like so some of those, like the Muffin Men, right? So it's that kind of style of like, you know what? We're gonna do it all for you. You just play.
Yeah, we've got the franchises here. We've got the names, we've got the logos, we got your Twitter followers already.
They put so much effort into it. And it shows. Like if you go to their Twitter, they have like their banner is like all the champions from the league that are from every season, and they make a big deal out of the drafts. Anytime there's a roster move, all the teams talking trash because there's every team has their own Twitter handle. So ML Doubles is a lot of fun. It's not necessarily like the best of the best pros, but if you're just looking to have a good time and play, and even just follow a scene that's not necessarily a bunch of super elite pros, but just people having fun playing the game purely for the passion, then ML Doubles is the organization.
Yeah, and you kind of get almost like the pro experience of like I get a Twitter followers and like I have a team and like a name and I get a jersey and like a logo to wear myself kind of thing, you know, a history that you come from that you're getting incorporated into, so it's great. And if this doesn't sound like your thing, Ascending Champions, another organization that competes with diamond tier and below players specifically, it's another thing that you can try to get involved in. So there you can see 3v3s at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, Ascending Champions. New one here that I'm not as familiar with, but they are definitely making a name.
And it's just cool, like we were saying before, just the amount of variety that there is in the community. Really, like no matter how old you are or like how good you are at the game, like there is a spot for you in one of these community organizations for you to get involved, whether you're trying to play or just help out, just be involved in general. So, and the Rocket League community, I've played at several games like Halo, and some other console shooters, and by far, Rocket League is like the best community that I've ever been a part of. So
that is, I think all the pros. I mean, you saw at LAN when Northern Gaming had won, and then they like pulled back on the camera, and like all the players from the tournament come in and like hug them on the stage. Like I've never seen that at any other esports event where like the community is as tight as it is in Rocket League.
And it's from like the top down.
Yeah, from
like
the top
everyone in the community is so helpful towards one another.
It really came down to people that I think started it. You look at Cloud Fuel, one of the big people. I don't think it's possible for us to give props to that guy as much as he deserves. But, you know, when you have someone as kind-hearted as that, and he built this kind of group of people that looked out for each other, and that just bred more of that, and it just more and more and more. And as the community grew, everyone is just there to look out for each other, and that's why all these tournaments are coming from. I love that there's tournaments that you literally can't be the best at. Like you can't be champion. We don't want you here. You're too good. We want to win some and play some fun games, and just being on an equal playing ground. It doesn't matter how bad you are. It's just fun. You just want to have some fun with other people that love the same game that you love, even if you don't have the time to grind out and put in 50 hours a week. And that's like it's such a cool thing to be a part of. To kind of I reminisce a lot, particularly with you, James, because like we met on that kind of playing field. We're like,
the first cast ever was the PPL.
And
it was.
That was the first time I casted with you.
It was
too.
rough.
Also
the very first time I casted with you guys was that org that I was running, and like it was so much fun. It was like just. And we were doing it because it was a blast. You know, we loved the game. We knew a lot about it. And we're like, you know what? Let's just cast this. And that's when we got to cast people like Quinn, and a lot of pros were in that league as well. People like that guy. People like Orange Creamsicle.
Those are the days.
We could go on for a long time here, reminiscing about the old days. But it's been a fantastic episode of our RLCS Overtime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be here again, same time next week for Carpet, James Bach, Quinn, and myself. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good week.